What's going on, guys? Welcome to TK's Garage 405. On today's episode, I'm going to show you guys how I finally resolved my 2015 Silverado overheating problem. So, if you guys have been following along here, I haven't even shown all of them. It's hard to watch the temperature gauge while it's happening, but I'll kind of give you the rundown here. About a month ago, maybe a little over, I was in Pennsylvania or West Virginia, something like that. Anyways, over in the East Coast, and it was cold out and I didn't see the temperature gauge and it started overheating. It was low on antifreeze, I let it cool off. I filled it back up and it seemed okay for a little bit again. And then out of nowhere, it kind of overheated again. And then it seemed like filled it up again and then it was good for a while. So when I had read on the forums what was happening, they say that these trucks are super bad for air pockets. And so you guys have seen this truck. It's 2015 Silverado 2500 LT. It's a pretty generic 6-liter gasser truck. I have tons of them out there. But yeah, supposedly, and I let that get in my head, that somebody on one of the forums said to me that they're extremely hard to bleed the air out of them, and I didn't really think that would be a problem, just how the system is set up. But I thought, well, maybe that's the problem. So I drove it another couple thousand miles, and everything was fine after that. And then out of nowhere again, it started overheating. And so it's happened a couple more times there. Couldn't resolve it. Couldn't figure out where it's coming from. It seemed like it was coming out the overflow, but I couldn't see where the overflow was on this truck. So after this last trip here, I finally figured out what's going on here. So I was just driving down the highway again, and of course the steering wheel's in my way, so I can't see it, and it starts overheating. And this time it actually got to the point where it was overheating, and before, when you'd back off the throttle and just kind of idle it down, I think the coolant was still up enough that it would let it cool off. Well, this time it wouldn't, so I actually had to pull over and shut it off, which is, I mean, overheating an engine's always the worst thing for everything, right? So I said this is probably the 6th time this has happened in the last month, or maybe a little over that. So anyways, so I realized what was going on here, and I'll show you guys that right now. Okay guys, like I mentioned, this is a very generic truck. There's nothing special about it. It's just a 6-liter LT, so it's got leather interior. Got a couple of little annoying things you can see on this. I think the shocks are worn out. It's got the old Ranchero shocks, but it kind of wears little these bumps, and I realized that years and years ago. I had a car that did that. We realized that the shocks are bad in it, so, you know, original shocks. Still got the original spark plugs, whatever, you know, the usual. Don't fix what's not broken. But I'm gonna show you guys today what happened here. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys honestly here, I had no idea that these things still had a pressurized cap. And the reason I never really thought about it before is, number one, I've always, since I've had newer vehicles, I usually just either take them to the dealer on warranty, or else if it's like something like these, like a work truck where I need it like fast, I used to always have in Iowa, I had a mechanic there that was really good, and they always got me in quick and they fixed what I needed, and I wasn't in a bind, and I was always too busy to deal with it. So I never really worked on too many of these new vehicles, so, and I've never seen this problem. I've worked on tons of newer-ish vehicles that would have had this same scenario, but I've never had this exact problem. So I'm going to show you guys what happens here. So I thought on these new ones, because this is a threaded antifreeze cap, so I just assumed that there was a bleed off somewhere else for like the pressure, basically, right? So you can see a 20 psi cap. I never really paid attention to that before, honestly. So what happened was, the other day there, it finally overheated again. I hobbled it over to Napa. I actually thought I felt the side of the tank, and I felt antifreeze kind of like under the side here, over on the back side there. And I was trying to feel to see, because it actually sprayed down my entire side of my truck with antifreeze when it did overheat there. And I was trying to figure out what was going on here. So I thought the tank was broken. I was like, well, maybe it's just got a crack in it and that's what's going on. So how I realized it wasn't, when I got the tank, I screwed the lid off. I was getting ready to take it apart and change the tank. And then I realized underneath this, and I'll show you guys that I still have the old one here. While I'm at this, and you guys can see, it's got 399,193 miles now. Just racking up the miles on it lately here. But anyways, so give Dorman a shout out here. This is what I did. I ended up taking the tank back and replacing it with just changing the cap. And I showed you guys this earlier, but this is what had happened here. So if you take a good look here, oh, there it is. Right here, there we go, try to get to focus. You guys can see that? So this O-ring is broken. And so how this thing works, if you look at it, it actually, there's a little spring inside there, and it actually pushes up when it reaches to a certain point. And right here is actually the overflow. And so if you actually take this off when your vehicle's cool and you screw that out, right in here, there's like a little hole, and that's the overflow. So it doesn't actually overflow like out here anymore. You see, this is all connected to the engine and everything. You can see that hose goes down to the engine, returns to the block. And so underneath the tank, there's no hose anymore. It's just like a little, probably, I'm assuming where this little kind of whatever thing is here, straight down, there's like a 90, and the 90 is just out. Like it doesn't actually come out on a hose anymore. It's just like a little square hole. So when you reach underneath there looking around for the tank hose, you're not going to find it because they don't have one. And so that's what was going on. So I think what had happened was this gasket on this lid, when it started going bad originally, it was just cracked enough that a little bit was getting by, a little bit was getting by, and it was slowly dripping out only when it was working and it was really warm. Once it's, just maybe got driven 10 minutes or something, you wouldn't really notice that. Or if I was doing short trips or it wasn't really getting warm, the weather was cooler, whatever, it wasn't really pressuring up as much. So as time went on, and I think that last time when I actually pulled it out, the very first time it overheated on me, I think when I threaded it out and I put it back in, it actually opened up the gap on that O-ring. I probably just didn't notice it, screwed it back in, and then it was leaking by a little bit more. And then eventually, after 2 or 3 times of me taking that thing off to refill it, it actually broke the O-ring. So I think what this last time why I finally caught it was because when I threaded it back in, that thing was kind of, the O-ring was pretty much off. So anyways, so yeah, that I've put probably another, I don't know, I drove it home, so I was 600 miles from home, so I probably put 600, 700 miles on it already since I actually changed the cap here, and everything seems to be good. So I'm calling a win on this one. I think this is finally my issue. I don't think I'm gonna have any more problems with it here. So I finally broke down. I've been so busy, but I finally broke down and washed this thing the other day. I don't wash it as much in the winter time because it's not normally that dirty, but I actually fully hand washed it. I spent $16 hand washing it, and then I realized how dirty it actually was. This paint's actually, like, for being a 400,000 mile truck now, this paint's actually in really good condition. Which is, I mean, honestly, if it was cut and polished, other than you can see there's some scratches here or whatever, if it was cut and polished, you would probably never really know it, honestly. So the only thing that hasn't worked on this truck since I got it, which actually is kind of annoying, is these reverse light camera, or lights, sorry. So other than that, this truck has been bone reliable, and I'm going to attribute the fact that it's actually not hurt yet to me running 1540 Rotel in it. Everybody thinks I'm crazy. They said that's the dumbest thing you can do. It's going to knock out the lifters. Well, guess what, guys? Everybody else's lifters are going out at freaking 50,000 miles, 80,000 miles, whatever. You guys are all having problems. I've had a bajillion freaking 5.3s, 6.2s, 6.0s, whatever, and I've run 1540 in the mall, and I've never had any of those problems. So I think I'm onto something, and I think they make the oil interval changes too long on those trucks. on those engines, even on these ones. I think they make the oil interval changes too long. I think the oil is too light. I think all these new 5.3s that are 0.20 oil or whatever they rate them to there, that to me doesn't make sense. And they're semi-synthetic now, which makes them even lighter, right? So I think that's what the issue is with all these. But anyways, that's kind of what I got going on for today here. I'm over at Buc-ee's. I just stopped to check everything over here, make sure everything's good, but at Buc-ee's in Texas actually. So yeah, picked myself up a little bigger yard machine here, but anyways guys, yeah, so that's her and seems to be pretty happy. Other than that, I think that's going to resolve my problem. The other thing I talk about with this high mileage truck here, I run a little bit of Lucas oil stabilizer in it once in a while. I don't think you have to add much. I feel like it helps with cold starts too, but everybody's going to argue with that too. They're going to tell you it's the worst thing ever. I'm not giving advice on any of this. I'm just telling you guys what I do. So anyways, guys, I am going to start making my way home here. Maybe get home later tonight yet, but I just wanted to show you guys what I had found. I said if this truck made it to 400,000 miles that I would change the windshield in it. So that's the plan. Anyways guys, thanks for watching. Make sure you okay, I just got out of a hill here and it said my engine was overheating, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on here. As you can see, when I opened the hood here, it was just covered. Oh man, it's like everywhere. Almost seems like a hose blew. Something is not happy here. I'm just gonna go on a limb and say there's no antifreeze left. I have no idea where that's coming from though. Man, I thought I had this problem licked here. Just out of nowhere again. Like the trans was like, I was watching the trans gauge there while I was climbing this hill. I always do. That's gross. And it wasn't even really hot on the trans gauge. And then just out of nowhere, all of a sudden it was like it blew a hose. I'm like in the middle of nowhere here. I don't even know if I have phone service where I'm at, to be honest. Antifreeze all over here. Surely there's no antifreeze left in it. Let's go see how much came out back here, because it was... I can see it. It's all over the side of the truck again. I don't know if it just overheated or if it actually, like, it just blew out of the tank, or what exactly happened here. Gonna have to wait for it to cool off here again. I was lucky there was a place to pull over because there's guardrails. I'm on like a little twisty, windy highway coming up here, kind of in the mountains in Oklahoma here. Man, it blew everywhere this time. I let it sit for like just a few seconds before I shut it off, because usually it'll start dropping temperature, and this time it did not. So not good. I do have antifreeze with me, but the only thing that I noticed the other day was this was dripping a little bit. So I opened the thing, I moved the rad hose, the rad hose clamp here, and I tightened it up, and it's not, I mean, not that I can see anyways. I don't see any over here, but I don't know how it would be. I don't know how it would be wet way over here unless the actual radiator blew. It's like, she's just smoking hot. Just sold my backup truck a couple days ago too. Don't even have a spare truck now. That's weird. I just took it like another at least 1,000 miles since, and I never had any problems. I don't know why all of a sudden now. Oh man, this is getting old. This has got to be at least what, 7th, 8th time this thing is overheated in the last month. Just breathing in that antifreeze. I have antifreeze with me, but I'd sure like to know where it's coming from, because I don't know. It is everywhere. I mean, the alarm was only on for 15 seconds before I stopped again, but it looks like it just blew out the bottom. I wonder if it was just... And I checked it again after I filled it the other day, because I made sure because it lost a little bit when I took that hose off. I made sure I topped it off again, because what actually happened was I came outside, I had parked for the night, and I noticed on the right side here underneath that hose it was wet, and I was like, oh man. And so I looked, and yeah, sure enough, it was a little bit low. So then I lost a little bit when I took the hose off. Not much, but well, I don't know, guys. I'm gonna have to let this thing cool off, and that's probably gonna take a while because it's pretty warm out right now. Put antifreeze in it, I guess, and go from there. I don't know. I don't even see where it's coming from. Like, for it to get all the way to this side of the engine and everything, man, that's crazy. Like when it blew out the bottom before, it was just blowing out the bottom. It never, like, look, it's, I don't know if you guys can, yeah, you can see that all the way down. It's all over the cross member. It almost looks like it kind of blew into the fan, and the fan blew it everywhere. But if it was the overflow, I was talking about that the other day, the overflow here, the overflow's in the bottom of the tank, and there's no hose. It just sprays out, but I don't know why it would over here. I'm starting to question. Oh man, just breathing that. Gross. Breathing that steaming freaking antifreeze. It's got like a sweetness to it. It's been a long time since I've seen a truck or anything overheat this bad. You can see it's even all over the liner of the under the hood here. Not where I want to be stranded, that's for sure. Not good. Well, if you look closely up there, if you see the back of the water pump, kind of where I'm shining it there, see how the water pump plate pushed off? I did a little Googling, and apparently that's a pretty common problem with the aftermarket parts. I don't know if I released a video yet. I don't think I did, but actually I did. When I first put this on here, it was vibrating like crazy. And it seemed like it just kind of balanced itself out, and I was like, man, should I just change it again? Well, apparently I should have, but anyways, see if you look at that, even how after I put this aftermarket water pump on there, the belt's not even really sitting in the middle of the actual pulley, and yeah, just, I don't know. You can see, if you look close, you can, oops, sorry. If you look close, you can see the mark is only halfway on the pulley too. It's only riding half the belt, like, pretty dumb. Overall here. Ryobi tools to the rescue. And the old Braun flashlight. These things are unreal. Check it. Do you notice anything missing from this picture? Perhaps this? That's supposed to be in there. Trying to forget to put the glue in this one, or what? you guys can see inside there, there's something broken too. Look, there's like a chunk of something inside of there. Not sure what it is, but anyways, I don't know if that's supposed to be some sort of a seal or what. Looks like it's almost like porcelain or something. Something went through there. Anyways. Appreciate everybody watching. Thanks guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow. Check me out on social media, TK's Garage 405. Check out Alpha Mallory, always got their hat on, it seems like. But yeah, I'm on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, so check you guys on the next one. Thanks for following.